كلمة البروفيسور دكتور مارك جاي مدير مجموعة تلوث الهواء والبيئة الحضرية ومدير التخطيط العمراني والبيئة والصحة ومبادرة الصحة في ISGlobal برشلونة أسبانيا. فليتفضل.
I'll be talking a little bit about our current situation in cities. Next slide, please. As we know that more than 4 million people die each year due to ambient air pollution, more than 3 million die each year because of lack of physical activity, and more than 1 million people per year die as a result of traffic fatalities. Next slide, please. We also know that cities are great. We love cities. They've been the predominant engine of innovation and wealth creation. However, they're also main sources of crime, pollution, and disease, unfortunately. Next one. We know that the world is urbanizing. We're getting more and more people living in cities, particularly in low and middle income countries, because at the moment over 50% of them will go up to 70–80%. Many new cities are actually being built. Next. We see in particular in Asia, Africa, many new cities with about 60 million people each year moving actually to cities. Next one. Unfortunately, we haven't created the best places to live. We've created grey, kind of concrete structures. Next one, if you go to China or you go to Buenos Aires, next one. Mumbai in India, next one. Johannesburg, next one. Or you go, for example, to LA, was a very stretched out city, not always so healthy. This is an example of Tehran, what's happened, where we get very high air pollution episodes. And we know that air pollution is not good for you. One of the main problems is our great use of cars. This is Barcelona, my own city, where we see many cars, very high traffic density. Next. But of course, not only there, we see it in Mumbai, and I think we have the same problem here in Cairo, what I experienced this morning. Next one. Even that, most of the time we use the car only about 4 or 5% of the time, 96% of the time the car is parked, and we can use the space actually for better use, like green space. We know that there is no relationship between how we design cities and how people get around cities. So if you have cities where you put a lot of car infrastructure, you get a lot of cars, you get a lot of air pollution, you get noise, heat island effects, you get a lot of stress, you also get a lack of physical activity, and this all leads to a disease. Like here it's cardiovascular disease, leading premature mortality. On the other side, if you would design a city for cycling or walking for active transportation, you will get less air pollution, you get noise, less noise, less heat island effects, it takes less space, and also less more physical activity, leading to less cardiovascular disease or any other disease, and less mortality. Next one, please. So we know now that our environment has a large impact on health. This is kind of summarized where we see how kind of air pollution has an effect on respiratory health, cardiovascular health, and also cancer. We see effects on cognitive development in people. On the other side also we see similar effects from noise. But we see beneficial effects from green space. We know that green space is good. It can reduce mortality. It can reduce heart disease, for example. Next. We did a health impact assessment in Barcelona to see what is the impact of these different exposures like air pollution, noise, heat island effects, lack of physical activity, and green space. What is the impact on health? How many people affected? We've developed a health impact assessment tool that we can apply to many different cities. We applied it in Barcelona, but you also can do it in other cities. And came up with the following estimates. Next slide, please. We found that there are almost 3,000 premature deaths in Barcelona out of 15,000 deaths due to these different factors. So the lack of physical activity causes more than 1,000 deaths per year. Air pollution causes almost 700 deaths per year. Noise exposure causes almost 600 deaths per year. Heat island effects causes almost 400 deaths per year. And the lack of green space causes almost 100 deaths per year. So you can see these are important factors. Normally, when we think about the impacts of traffic, we think about traffic injuries, and there are only 30 in Barcelona each year. You can see that the total impact of how we plan our cities, how we plan our transport is actually much larger. And this is, a relatively clean city still, but the impacts are quite large. Next. So we can't put our heads in the sand. We need to do something. We need to make our cities healthier. Next one, please. Oops, one back. And there are different solutions. One is reducing car use in our cities, moving to more public and active transportation, what has an impact on all these different exposures. And also more the greening of cities is very important. It's not so long ago that we lived out in the green spaces, out in the countryside. In the cities we don't get much green, but we know it's very important for many things, so we should stimulate more green. Next one, please. We should look at cities where we actually can walk around and we have some green space around, like you can see here, where people can enjoy themselves. Next one. Or areas where we actually can cycle, where there is specific infrastructure for people who would like to cycle to work, ideally with green space around them. Next one, please. Myself, I've written about this. There's now a lot of we know about the health impacts of green on health. We know how good it is for people to have green space, not only for mortality, cardiovascular disease, but also for mental health. We have many mental health problems nowadays. In particular also in cities. And this is one that describes it. Next one, please. Also, as what I said, the change that we rely too much nowadays on the car. There are too many cars in our cities, and what we should look at is to change this and look more at public and active transportation. This is possible because many trips in our cities are less than 5 kilometers, and so could be easily replaced by other forms. Unfortunately, most of the time there is no infrastructure in our cities to allow this. Next one, please. We have the different groups that develop different visions of cities in the future. You see here 4 pictures. At the top left corner is what is the current situation. This is coming from England. We see many different cars. The second vision is where we can take the cars away. We get more public transport, fewer cars. And then vision 2 is where we only have public transportation. Vision 3 is what we only have active transportation, walking and cycling, and much more green space in the city. So this, my colleague James Woodcock actually modeled this, next slide please, and showed what are the health benefits. So these are kind of expressed as how many lives you could save in principle using different visions if you move people out of the car using more active transport and more green space. So we can model this. You can see for Vision 3, there's a lot of health benefits to actually bring this. Next one. Some cities are actually going further. What we see in Europe now, particularly, is that cities want their city to make more livable, and they're trying to get the car out of the city center, particularly. Hamburg says they're going to be car-free by 2034. Other cities making similar pledges, not only for livability, but also for health, and also, of course, for climate change purposes. And the main driver in Hamburg is climate change purposes. Next one, please. This is an area in Freiburg, in Germany, that is completely car-free. This is sustainable housing with a lot of green space, and people don't actually have cars in this particular neighborhood, and it's a wonderful area to walk around. Next one, please. But it's very important that we bring together different people that are involved in cities in how to make our cities more livable. We have to bring together urban planners and transport planners and environment and public health people to actually make our cities more livable, more healthy, and more sustainable. At the moment we have silos in cities. We have the urban planners, we have the transport planners, the environmentalists, the public health people, and they don't talk to each other now. And we need to come up with bringing them together and making plans, how to improve the health in our cities. Next one, please. Also, we need to not only look, say, at air pollution, what we often see as a problem, but also at the same time about noise, the heat island effect, which I know is a problem here in the region as well, the lack of green space and lack of physical activity, what we see in many, many different countries nowadays, what leads to a lot of disease, and we should prevent this. Next one, please. We just released a book with my colleague from Jordan, where we look at how can we integrate human health into urban and transport planning. It's recommended for you to read it. It just came out. It's about 700 pages where we brought together urban planners, transport planners, environment and health people, and trying to argue how we can actually build healthier cities, taking this into account. Next one. And also we're organizing a conference in November, at the end of November, in Sitges, called Urban Transitions. Sitges is a very beautiful place just on Barcelona, so if you want to take a few days off and relax, please come to Sitges, come and visit us, and also come to the conference. And I'm sure you will have a great time to learn much more about how to make healthier cities. Next one, please. I always say, that there's this African proverb that says if you want to go quickly, go it alone. If you want to go far, go together. But I would say if you go quickly, go alone. But if you want to make an impact, let's do it all together and work all together to make our cities healthier. Next one, please. Many thanks for listening, and if you want to come and visit us, this is my building where we're based. We're in Barcelona. We're happy to talk to you. We are very interested in this area, and if you're fed up with us, if you don't want to listen, you always can come and enjoy the beach. It's very close. Many thanks.